Welcome to On and Off the Mic. I'm Mike Corey. One of my best friends in the industry is Marc Vandermeer. We met way back in 1995 when I was a freshman at UMass and he became the voice of the Minutemen. And what a year that was. UMass would go on to the Final Four with Marcus Camby and John Calipari. But Marc and I's 4 years were tied together. After I graduated in 1999, he helped me get my first job as the voice of the Blue Hens at the University of Delaware. And then he was off to Miami to become the voice of the Hurricanes. And then since their inception, he's been in Houston as the radio voice of the NFL's Texans and their director of broadcasting. And here we are, 20 years later. Vandy, what are you doing now? I know it's year-round with the Texans. What's going on out there?
It's year-round, Mike. You know that. I mean, it's the NFL. It never stops. In fact, it's like money never sleeps in Wall Street. The NFL never sleeps. It's 24 hours a day. The funny thing is, everyone asks me everywhere I go, like, what's up? You must not be very busy right now. It's the off season. And I got to say, I'm busier in the off season almost than I am during the season because we're doing all this planning. I manage the broadcast department. I manage all our TV that we generate in-house, which is multiple shows a week and one show a week during the off season, 5 nights of radio a week all year round. And we have social media, which never stops, and all of it. And you have to generate all this content, and you always have to create it. So you're creating it out of thin air. We go 7 months without snapping a football, and we're creating content around this team. So, and I'm not complaining. It's fun. It's great. It's what we do. But it is hard this time of year in that there's just, you don't have any new games to react to. So you just go.
I get that same question, too. They're like, oh, what are you doing? And I have to kind of say, I'm really busy. No day is the same. No day is the same. And obviously you got 2 kids and I want to ask how they're doing. And I got my new daughter who's 6 months old. So it's like, even if I wasn't working an actual job, I would probably be very busy every single day. I think we all would, right? It's crazy.
Yeah. And, it's a real blessing to be able to do what we do. It's just, and I don't blame people for thinking that because I would think that too. I'm vice president of broadcasting for the Texans. Nobody wants to talk to me about that. They want to talk to me about the team. And occasionally what it's like to be in the booth. Nobody cares about me doing a budget for preseason TV satellite trucks, but I do that kind of stuff. And obviously I'm very grateful to be able to do it because I find that stuff really interesting, the insider stuff of the industry. But it is just part of life, and I keep going, and I really love what I do here.
It's do people go berserk with the draft? I know we just had the draft, and I mean, you must be getting every pick, every tweet. I mean, this guy, that guy. It's I always took a backseat to that. And granted, I was on a smaller level doing college stuff, but it was you know what? Talk to me in another year. Or talk to me in 2 years. You bring in all these guys. Half the picks don't even pan out. Half the league are undrafted free agents, right? I mean, this guy could be great, then he stinks. One guy's highly regarded. He's not as good. One guy you didn't know about, he's awesome. It's you have no idea.
Here's the interesting thing about the draft. It is crucially important to the lifeblood of any NFL team. And every NFL team, as you know, puts out a release every week. And they have a page called how it'd be how the Texans are built, how the Browns are built, how the Patriots are built. Every team has this page. And they go over the roster in terms of these are first-year players, rookies. These are second-year, third-year, fourth-year players. And then guys who have been around 4 years or more. The majority of your players, 75% of your players are from the last 3 drafts, all right? The last 3, maybe 4 drafts. The only guys that you keep over 4 or 5 years are phenomenal players that you drafted previously that have been around a long time, most notably quarterbacks. If you drafted Tom Brady and you're the New England Patriots, obviously he's been around forever. But there are many examples of this. Von Miller for the Broncos was taken in 2011, and there he is still on the team. We took J.J. Watt the same year. He's still on the team. But most of your players are really from the last 3 drafts because those are the NFL workers. Those are the guys. And that's why the draft is so important. You have to keep loading the coffers with affordable drafted players. Otherwise, if you're going free agents all the time, you're going to die a horrible death. You're going to be a bad team. And the good teams know how to draft well. By and large, you might be able to load up on free agents and make a run like the Jags did a couple of years ago. But if you're going to have sustained performance, you have to draft well. You could survive a bad draft, but you can't survive 2 or 3 bad drafts in a row.
Right. Okay. So I got the numbers a little off. I mean, it's like 75%, as opposed to the 25%.
But
Yeah.
but hang on now. You mentioned like 50% don't make, like it's more than that really don't make it, Mike. I mean, it's Charlie Casserly once explained the percentages to me, and it's really frightening when you think about it. There was a time when the Texans had the first round pick from their last 8 years or 9 years on the roster currently, which is unthinkable in the NFL because so many teams don't hit on the first round pick. Now, to your larger point, is for an announcer, I'm more of the kind of guy who says, just show me who's on the team, the depth chart, and I'll get ready for the game week 1, and we'll be raring to go. But in all these off-season shows, like I said, radio 5 nights a week, we're talking about all this stuff. We just had a draft here. We drafted Titus Howard with our first-round selection, and, I had 2 second-round picks and a third round. And we're talking about all these guys all the time. Not that they're the saviors, but how are they going to look? What do you think? And leading up to the draft, it's a sporting event unto itself. It's on major networks. ABC television carries the whole thing now. It's ridiculous how much coverage this thing gets, but it's just absorbed by people. They love it because there's this element of surprise and chance for the players, and there's some great stories involved. The networks are starting to tell the story very well. And we do radio. We do 16 hours of radio to follow the draft here locally, and I'm on 12 of those hours. We got a guy named John Harris who does all 16 hours. He's a draft guru. He's just a total nerd with it, and he's really good at it, and it's fun for him. So I think it's the off-season Super Bowl. There's a lot of talk about it, but the funny thing is once you get to camp, these guys are rookies, and it's going to be hard for them to fit in.
You needed to be in Nashville, man. That's like a fun city. I mean, I know you've been there with games. Like, have you had a chance to hang? That place is awesome. That's one of my top five in the country.
I love Nashville. I hate the Titans like poison, of course, because they're in the South, but it's a healthy sporting context hate, as I could talk about all day long. But I really like the city of Nashville. The other thing about the draft is the draft in Nashville, wherever they send the draft, it's just a podium, really. That's all it is. Right. And they put celebrities up there making picks. Roger Goodell's there the first night. Everybody follows it. But the draft takes place in the buildings where the NFL is located. In other words, NRG Stadium here in Houston and Gillette Stadium in New England. That's where the draft is taking place. That's where the picks are. The guys who make the decisions are in their own houses. The draft is just an area where they happen to be announcing these selections. It's just a podium. You can set it up in any city. Now, they do a tremendous job with it, making entertainment out of it. And that's why they can move it. The brainstorm to move the draft out of New York was a monumental one because all of a sudden they realized, wait a minute, we can do this anywhere. We just fly in the guys who want to be there or are willing to be there, and we go. And now, as you see, they bring in the former players, and everybody's making picks, and it's exciting. So why not do it that way?
Yeah, don't worry about it. The Jets fans will show up. They go wherever the hell it is. So you're all good. You'll get those people too.
It's funny, Mike, because you bring up the Jet fans. That was always the most enjoyable part of watching the draft. Oh, what are the Jets fans going to do? Because you were in New York. Then they realized, wait a minute. If we go to other cities, maybe other fans would have a better chance of getting to those cities, and the fans in that city would be the Jet fans in this case. So, you can always put on a big show with the draft wherever you go. So it was I'll tell you what, the combine, there's talk about moving the combine. That's going to be much harder to move because that's actually work being done by people, players, coaches, GMs, scouts. I mean, that's a real, and physicals, the medical part of it is huge. So that's a much more difficult thing to move than the actual draft.
Yeah, it was fun watching that on TV. Off the topic a little on Nashville, it's like I love that city. There's one thing they do there, and I don't know if many other places do this. I know it sounds ridiculous, but when you're in downtown and you're walking on the streets or whatever, when everybody gets the walk signal and nobody drives, so you can either walk across the street, walk diagonal, go wherever you got to go for like a minute, and then nobody walks and everybody drives, and the lights cross over so you can take a left, take a right. Why hasn't New York City done something like this? Like, that every time you have the green light, the guys to your left have the walk signal and you can't take a left, and it like backs up the entire street. Like, it sounds too simple, right? I mean, I don't get it.
I know. I mean, New York Drive. You're right. It's like when people. I can't believe they haven't resolved that by now. As a matter of fact.
Everybody walks, nobody drives, then everybody drives, and nobody walks. Like in New York.
Those New York walkers aren't waiting, though. They're not waiting. They're going to go for it,
Yeah, but
I'm surprised they're stop it all.
It's the only city where, like, when you're a driver, you can't stand the pedestrians, and then when you're a pedestrian, you can't stand the drivers. It's nuts.
True.
It's hard getting in and out of that place. But what do you got? You got any vacations or anything going on this summer? What do you normally do? I always ask you about.
I got the 2 kids, so
Right.
it's
Congrats on Luke's championship there. I saw that post. What is it, Little League?
flag football, which is the greatest sport for kids ever. It's really terrific sport, and listeners who are paying attention to this should know that if you happen to be able to coach flag football, just don't huddle much. Just have like 3 or 4 or 5 decent plays and let them run them. Because what happens is these dads who are coaching think they're Vince Lombardi or Bill Walsh or whatever. They're designing all these things, and they're huddling up too much. And these kids, to do virtually nothing. So we've had this group together for a long time, and now they can finish each other's sentences. So I have the Vander offense is pretty basic, and I'm not much of a coach, Mike, but I'm a good general manager. We got a lot of good kids on the team, so that's why we keep winning. It's fun. So I've got kids. It's their world. I'm just living in it, and I've got a 6-year-old. I'm kind of a late bloomer with him, and he's just a ball of fire. So we're gonna do a couple of things this summer. Go down to Galveston, which is something people here do in the summer. You're actually still very much in the heat in Galveston, but at least you're by the water. And we're going on a little cruise with the Carnival people, which will be fun. I do their commercials, full disclosure.
Nice.
So that'll be fun. And there's a thing that I call the desert in the NFL. I did say the NFL's 24/7, but it does get quiet from the end of minicamp till the start of training camp, which is around mid to late June to late July. There's about a 5-6 week period where there's nothing going on in the NFL. And we're still doing our shows and everything. We store up acorns for that desert. I guess I'm mixing the metaphors here. We store up content for that desert by getting as much as we can now, because that's a long haul for us. But we have some fun shows, some different shows, some top 10s and things like that. And then we get into training camp. And I love all of it. I like this time of year because the kids are getting out of school, and I do get to do some things. I sometimes play golf, but not enough. You know how that is.
Yeah, no, it's hard. Well, now you got to find 8 hours. Like, how do you find 8 hours? It takes a little bit to get there. You want to warm up. You want to play. You have a beer. You go home. It's like, that's so difficult. You know what I mean? Like,
golf. I think we can fix golf right now. I've always felt like golf should be, and I know they've tried all these things like tee it forward and everything, and like get on the forward tees because it makes the game easier.
Oh yeah, and quicker.
Yeah, which it should be, because you probably drive the ball like 280. I know.
I've had a couple good ones.
But let's say you're driving the ball really well for the average golfer is like 230, 240. I mean, those are nice drives, right? But there's no reason why I should be 190, 200 into a green if I'm driving at 220, 30, 40. That's inexcusable. I mean, every once in a while, fine. But you should be about 150 or somewhere around there where you can use a club where you might be able to hit the freaking green.
Exactly. I know.
Too many average golfers are turned off by the game, and it takes forever. Play 12 holes. Playing 9 is never enough. I think 12 is the perfect number. Take the rest of the course and turn it into a par 3 for the families, or sell the real estate and make the money to fund the rest of it. And more people would play golf, But the elite golfers hate hearing this because I got to have my long drives. Well, guess what? Your sport is dying, and I love your sport. But your sport is dying because you're making the courses more difficult, not easier.
Yeah, there's one Brooks Koepka. I mean, come on, for 320-something yards or whatever. It's like, and then he still has another 180 in, but that's a 9-iron for those guys. Like Tiger has like a 199 iron. Like, what do you do when you're inside a 170 then? Like, do you have like 8 different clubs? Like, you can only have so many.
They know, though. They know those distances. And you ever play with a bunch of guys who are like, they'll hit a shot and it'll land on the green. I'll say, what does that play for you? He'll be like, well, I hit a 7. And I'm like, no, that's irrelevant to me. What yardage does that normally play? Because you're taking wind into consideration and other things. That way I can get an accurate read on what I need to hit, because somebody else's 7-iron could be a 4-iron for me, and often is.
Right. Right. Don't you love when you play with somebody who's played the course before and then it's great because they want to give you advice. All right, you want to stay left here. There's trees, there's water. I always say, you know what? If I was good enough to be able to adhere to your advice, that's what I would do. I appreciate it. I'm just going to hit. It doesn't matter. It doesn't
We're in
matter.
the safe area, okay? Where do I have the most bailout? That's what I'm looking
Right. Yeah, I don't want to be walking around looking for my ball the whole time. But yeah, I had a few friends that were up at the PGA taking some pictures up there. Man, that was pretty crazy. That guy's impressive.
Well, he is, and he almost had a meltdown. I think
I know.
golf is a fascinating sport. We're so tuned into football and basketball, and golf is my third favorite sport to watch on TV. I just like watching how these guys handle certain situations. And I think the game is a little slow. I hate the way they do when they have overtime, okay? I don't like golf's version of that when they go to the playoff hole. I think they should just go to the 150 marker and just go ahead and throw darts until somebody wins, just park it on the green and have a putting contest because these things take forever. But I do love the sport. I do love watching the sport. It's so difficult. People are, well, how many more majors for Tiger now that he won the Masters? I don't know, maybe a couple. It's extremely difficult. Look at Spieth. Look at Justin Thomas. Where are these guys? It's so tough to stay up there.
I know it's not like NASCAR right now where the same like four people win every race. It's difficult. And then they go like this, like somebody has a round where they're like 8 under and they're like, oh, and then the next day he's only 1 under, like, bad round for him. It's like, what do you mean, dude? That's the outlier getting 8 under for a round. You should be like 1 or 2 under. Like that's not going to happen again. He's not going to go -8, -8, -6. Like that's his best round of the tournament. Like you can't expect that again.
The other thing is basically, I guess the average golfer shoots or tries to break 100. So I'm slightly above average. I go out there and I try to break 90, and I often do. But that's around my number, 88, 90. I'm very happy when I break 90 because I just don't play that much. And I know that it's a difficult thing. Anyway, so you go out there, you try to just do your best. You look at the pro. We beat ourselves up, though. Like if I shoot a 95, I'm like, oh, terrible round. But these guys will shoot like a 67, and then they'll shoot a 74, okay? Well, that's a 7-stroke differential. And for me, that was my everything, right? 95, to 88. That's a huge swing for me. But they do it all the time. It shows you how hard this game is. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, their worst shot is 280 yards on the right side of the fairway. We are like in the woods. It's like if you can limit the damage, because then they're pissed. They're like, oh, now I got to use an 8 instead of a 9, or and that's a big deal for them with the spin and all that stuff.
Well, they're hitting driver on holes where I'm thinking just back off a little bit, and you're in play. Isn't being in play the whole idea here? Phil, what are you doing in the pine straw again? Drives me nuts sometimes when I watch these guys.
Join our friends from the Delaware Kids Fund and Harvey Hanna and Associates for the 10th annual Delaware Kids Fund 5K in Newport, Delaware on Saturday, August 3rd. Join me and the rest of the crew as we help fight childhood hunger in Delaware for over 10 years now. For full info, visit dekidsfund.org. Do you know what it's like behind the scenes? So as broadcasters, like I've never done golf, but from what I hear, it's like it's craziness and it's chaos in the truck, and they're trying to like replay different shots and go to people live, and then you got like Jim Nantz there. It's probably sounding like this in the truck, like no 4 4 4. After this, go to Vandermeer on 3, and then Jim's like, let's go to Vandermeer on 3. Like he just makes it so easy. It's probably nuts.
I don't think Nance. In fact, I asked him about this. He comes here about once a year to do a Texans.
That's right.
And if he gets here early enough, I just pull him into the studio and we do like 15 minutes. And he's a wonderful guy. He's so nice. And I love talking to him about golf broadcasting because he doesn't hear everything that's going on in the truck. If he did, he would lose his mind. But you're right. The golf truck is it's the craziest truck. And I liken it to this. In football, in basketball, in baseball, there's one ball. In golf, how many balls are there, right? So you have to follow so much action in the truck and have everything synced up and timed up. And that's why you feel like, well, how come we haven't been keeping track of Rory for the last few holes? He's hanging in there, but they're like, forget about those shots. They have to edit on the fly. And I think it's an incredibly difficult sport to broadcast. To keep your cool as a play-by-play guy is one thing, but the guys in the truck have the real tough job of just monitoring things and showing things around the course. And a lot of it is on tape, record that. All right, roll it. Tell Jim, Jim's got to have like one guy that he really focuses in on. Otherwise, he'd lose his mind.
With all this like social media stuff and doing all these different things like we're kind of doing right now, it's like, with the national championship with basketball, I love how they have and we do this on ESPN too, like for the national championship for football, there's like 17 different ways you can watch the game. Three guys in their house talking about it, a couple coaches, drinking a beer, watching the game, just one angle from the sideline. Like, you got to be kidding me. And the fans, the average fan doesn't know like what we know. Like, this is our business. Like, we know Jim Nantz does the national championship game on CBS. Other fans, because they're watching True TV and TBS, they have no idea. They pop it on and they're like, why is this guy talking about Oklahoma? They're down by 40 points. And I'm like, you've got the Homer broadcast or the other broadcast of the local guy. Like, I mean, come on. It's just like, where's the one channel? It's nuts.
I think it is good entertainment, though, when you're not really into one of those two teams, Or, I mean, obviously, if you're into, like, Oklahoma and you have an Oklahoma exclusive, that's great. But I think more and more broadcasting is going in this direction. And, look, I'm a radio announcer for an NFL team. So this year, what has my ears and eyes kind of perked up is that we are able to stream the games for the first time on our Texans app and Texans website, right? Mm-hmm. So what does this mean to me? Now, if you're in the car, are you going to go aux cord or just interface, because they're getting better than ever, the interface with your phone in the cars? Are you just going to go ahead and punch it up there? And ingest the game that way? You're driving around. You're not going to watch the video, but you're going to hear the audio from the TV broadcast, or you're going to put me on the radio. And I don't think I'm threatened by this for a few years anyway, but I think it's coming. So I think what we need to do is think about, and this is already happening. You know how the Red Sox are doing their broadcast right now on radio, kind of a talk show format. You still have Joe Castiglione, but they rotate guys in and out of there, right? So I think, what I'm going to do here eventually is not make it a talk show, but make it a little bit more talkative and a little less formal as far as the color goes during our broadcast, because we know the team better than anybody. Andre Ware, and I got a guy, John Harris, the same guy who does our draft stuff on the sideline. We know this team better than anybody. We go to the practices. We're plugged in. Ian Eagle, I love Ian. He does a great job, but they don't know the team like we do. So let's showcase that part of it a little bit more. And already we get a lot of comments from people who listen to the radio say, well, look, we'd rather hear you guys because you know the team. But the whole thing with those game cast things with the national championships, I think it's fine, because I might not want to hear, Fowler calling the game. I might want to monitor what the coaches are saying, because I don't really care about the outcome if it's Alabama versus whoever.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, no, that's a good point. And today it's like you're the radio for you, and I know that's your love. It's like that's part of what you're doing now. Like in the past, it used to just be like, yeah, I'm the play-by-play voice of the Texans. That's what we do. But because of all this extra stuff, you can enjoy that still. People will take that in, but they take in all the other stuff you do, so you don't feel threatened or as bad because you got a million things going on. So radio is maybe not as powerful as it once was, but it's still, you're doing even more than what you were doing if you were just doing radio. That's what's so cool about it, like you're running the show.
Yeah, and you got to do social media. You got to do everything. I mean, it's just, I'm writing. You have to just be a multimedia content generator these days. Otherwise, you're not doing enough. Radio is an interesting medium to me. And I talked to a lot of people in the industry about this. I'm really, obviously having a show on the flagship here. It's an intercom station 5 nights a week. I talk to the program director about ratings all the time and what's really moving the needle. Ratings are measured so archaically by Nielsen. I mean, they do a terrible job evaluating radio ratings, and I don't want to say that publicly. We still pay them, so I guess I'm a client. I'm allowed to say this, but they just don't have enough of a sample size. And they claim it's statistically accurate, but I don't know. It's just it's not. Well, you feel like, in other words, so Houston is this is a top 5 radio market, right? So for sports radio, there are 4 sports radio stations in this town, which is crazy, but there are 4 of them. And the total number of meters, because the target is men 25 to 54, the total number of meters is something like 30 that listen to the sports stations in the entire market. And imagine if if you're the number 1 station, you have 8 to 10 meters that are dialed in on you, and one of those guys goes on vacation. Well, how does that help you?
Yeah, and how can
my show every night?
Right. How can you tell me that some 25-year-old guy, single, lives in an apartment, makes this kind of money, likes watching The Simpsons every night or whatever the hell it is, and that accounts for 374,000 people at his age that like to do that? Like, you have no idea. Like, that's not accurate. I mean,
It drives
that's
nuts. It drives you nuts, Mike, and I'm sure there's a better way to do it. There's got to be an app on a phone or whatever. I mean, you have all these listening devices. You have Alexa at home. I don't know if Alexa, which you can stream the radio through Alexa. I don't know if that's going to show up on the meter in the same way. I don't think it does, as a matter of fact. I think it shows up as a stream. So there are many different ways of listening now. We're on our app every night. I get, I don't know, monthly, what is the number? Maybe up to 100,000 listeners a month of our radio stuff on the app alone, okay?
wow.
So that is really cool.
But you know that. That's accurate. Like,
It's accurate. And you have a good idea of how long they're listening. That's the beauty of the digital world, that you do have a much more accurate read. Now, it's funny because I was at a conference this spring. We were going over Facebook video views, and the average view of a Facebook video is 12 seconds, Now, the average view of a YouTube video was, several minutes. I forget the exact number, so forgive me for that. On the HoustonTexans.com website, several minutes. So in other words, those sites, you're going to spend much more time watching videos. Obviously, YouTube does a great job in keeping you in once you go to YouTube to watch anything. They have suggestions, and you're thinking, well, oh, man, I'll click on this, clickbait. I'll go ahead and watch this video. With Facebook, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit tougher. They're trying different things. So, you have that scroll now, you slide up, and you find, for some reason, they think I like Don Rickles. I once watched a Don Rickles video. Now they're like, you like Don Rickles, don't you? It's scary, Mike. I was looking. I forget what it was. Some product on Google on my home computer, and I'm on my phone later, and I'm on Facebook, and an ad pops for that thing, and it's on Facebook. So it's talking to Google, and it's frightening. It's scary. It's Minority Report with Tom Cruise. That's what it is.
It is, dude. They know, and then you're like, you know what? I've already bought this. Don't be bothering me now for the next 2 weeks. So, but no, I mean, you're right. The ratings thing. It's like, hey, I just went 9 for 10 at the free throw line. I'm a 90% free throw shooter. Yeah, bro. Why don't you shoot 100 and tell me what your percentage is? I mean, I hate that.
It's a good point right there. That's an excellent point. You have to get a better sample size, otherwise it's not going to be accurate.
No, that's crazy stuff. Hey, real quick, I went back to UMass and been helping the kids out of the student radio station there because it's changed a lot, and almost like what we were talking about. What's that?
Is there any hope?
No, there will be. I know. I don't know when, but it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. I read an article.
All right, go ahead.
No, it's bad. I mean, I get it. I don't know what the hell they're gonna do, but I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm hoping they pick it back up. But with these guys, like you said, there's so many more things they're doing now. It's not just the radio. I was like, listen, you should be selling all this podcast, social media, and kind of giving them a little direction there. So looking forward to seeing what they do this year.
Well, Mike, I mean, I don't want to say nobody because some people must, but and I'm not just saying this because I'm on your podcast, but very few people have the drive that you did to make those things go and make them a sellable commodity. I mean, you had a whole sales enterprise going there, and I would doubt that it was as good as it was before you were there, and there's no way that it's as good as it was after you were there. I mean, that was something that you really brought to the table, but that's the business. The business is being able to generate great content that moves products and services, because that is it. That is the business. Very few people can just sit there like Howard Stern. He's one of the very few, just sit there and generate content and not even worry about it so much. The numbers will be there and he can move product. But even he does endorsement deals. So, there you have that. This is a commercial business. It is a business. And as soon as people understand that better, they'll understand, what kind of content they're getting, why they're consuming it, and what's important, especially those who work in the industry. Too many people want to create great stuff, and they're not understanding that there's a business side to everything we do, and it's got to be met. Otherwise, you're not going to exist. I think one of the most interesting developments lately was it was Huffington Post. What else? Was it Bleacher? Not Bleacher Report. BuzzFeed had all the layoffs, right?
Okay.
Yep. I was blown away by that. Isn't this supposed to be something that keeps everybody in? This is where we're all going, right? I mean, this is it. This is the new media. This is where everybody's going. This is why the newspapers are going out. But, everybody has their issues, and you got to be able to support advertising and make those people happy.
Yeah, well, hey, I'm thankful the ESPN Disney's Avengers movies got made $2.5 billion. Hopefully that'll help everything moving forward. I mean, holy cow, that's crazy.
Well, what's the price of a movie these days? Like, I mean,
12 to $13. Yeah, well, I looked it up because it said it's the second highest grossing film of all time. And I'm like, okay, what's the first? And they just adjusted it for inflation, et cetera, et cetera. It's Gone with the Wind. Like, Gone with the Wind is the #1 grossing movie of all time. Like, and you're just going to tell me that
I think the inflation adjustment is the key here. It really is the key. It's not because the prices go up, you're charging more. So credit, I mean, The Avengers is an amazing franchise. Don't get me wrong. I know that a lot of the Hollywood people sort of lament all the superhero stuff. But look, I mean, so many great actors have given into it. I still love what they did with Michael Douglas, making him look young. I mean, that just blew me away. Why can't they do that with Sean Connery, make a new James Bond movie, please?
Yeah, Harrison Ford, do something. Yeah. No, I know it's sick, but yeah, in terms of actual money, without your inflation, I mean, $2.5 billion must be nice though to be able to know that you're going to spend $350 million on a movie and still bring in a ton of dough. I mean, it's just impressive. And Star Wars too, when that comes out at the end of the year, you're just going to have 1 million. Everybody's going to go watch it. Like, you don't have to worry that you're going to flop the box office. Like, you're not.
So I just saw The Last Jedi this weekend, right? Which is the latest one, which came out end of 2017. And I'm sorry, I saw it late, whatever. Obviously I wasn't in a big rush, but I do love the franchise. Anyway, so we were just watching the end scene of A New Hope, which is the first one ever made, which is episode 4. So anyway, the end of it when they blow up the Death Star, the first movie, right? And, they're flying low underneath their surface guns on the Death Star and everything. So how does The Last Jedi begin? They're flying low underneath our surface guns. I'm like, don't these freaking Empire people learn anything? I mean, I just saw this 40 years later, and that's in Earth time, not in space time. You guys get some better surface guns. Jeez.
Yeah, please, yeah. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh, I know, don't mess that stuff up, come on now. I love it. Well, hey man, great stuff. Always love catching up with you. Hope the summer goes well, and hey, I'm glad I finally had a chance to get down to Houston. You know what I mean? Like, I have never been to Houston. We talk about it every year. I finally got a game down there for basketball. So, thanks for the Rockets tickets. That was fun hanging out.
Good time. Now, you got to come back. The Cougs were great this year. They had a great year. I mean, as you saw, a beautiful building and everything. Thanks for having me down courtside. That was terrific. I was right behind Tillman for T-Dub, so I got a chance to talk to him a bit. And it was with all the great people hobnobbing down there. So I need those seats, Mike. Please come back.
We'll get them back. Don't worry. Yeah, I talked to a couple of security guards, but they're like, "Oh, okay, no worries." And I'm like, "This place is great. I love this place." But yeah, it was a sight there for that. Hopefully, they'll have another good season. They bring a lot of guys back, so we'll do it again.
It's good stuff. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, you got it. All the best. I'll talk to you. On and Off the Mic is brought to you by Dr. Michael Axe and the team at First State Orthopedics. Dr. Axe and his staff is an outstanding group that I've known for over 20 years. They have top docs that are nationally known, 21 specialized surgeons providing the best care for you and your family. Visit firststateortho.com. Thanks for listening to On and Off the Mic. I'm Mike Corey. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss another episode. And you can follow my travels all year long on social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Mike Corey Sports.